Tune into this brand new rant as I am demystifying the complex dilemma of staying healthy, eating healthy, and sticking to your fitness routine during long show days and weeks that run into each other. Throw into that a fitness competition and let's see who can handle it and how.
Welcome to Events Demystified podcast, the Rant series, where we go off the cuff and say it as it is, tackling anything and everything in the AV production, technology and event industry that not a lot of people are willing to talk about. The Rant series is short and spicy, comes out twice a month in between the more tamed interview style episodes. This podcast is brought to you by Tree Fan Events, a woman-owned boutique event production agency, and your host is Anka Trifan. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to my brand new office with a wonderful view. I am actually in a hotel room as I am recording this brand new rant. And I've been on the road for quite a few weeks, one after another, for events. And you know how it is when they happen, they all happen at once. So here I am trying to stay healthy and ready for my fitness competition coming up, which is by the time this rant will really air, probably it's going to be very close to that date. So, needless to say, being on the road, working long hours, working events that are multiple day events, and staying healthy, sometimes that just doesn't go well together. It's almost like an oxymoron, you know? So this rant goes out to all my fitness fanatics, health nut, tech friends that inspire me to be more like them every day, even during those 18 to 20 hours long days. As an adult woman that has worked in event productions for almost 20 years now, who's consistently struggled with keeping a work-life balance and a healthy lifestyle in a pretty demanding field that is nothing but suitable for a healthy lifestyle, who's worked full-time all these years while also birthing two full-term healthy and huge birth children out of this one tiny body, who's also gained and lost over 60 pounds with each one of those pregnancies. Also, as someone who's been fairly active in the CrossFit community and for the last year and a half have been training hard for her very first international natural bodybuilding and fitness competition, entering as an amateur in the Bikini Open and Masters divisions, all the while running a business, traveling 2-3 full weeks at a time out of the month for events, trying extremely hard to balance this work, fitness, and whatever personal life I have left. I felt that this one topic that is quite important for the benefit of our wholeness and our mental health and our health in general is a quite important topic of ranting about living this healthy, wholesome life with all the demands that the event world throws at you, can be a challenge, especially in this endemic world. But it's also so important now, especially when we talk so much about mental health and physical health and healthy boundaries and keeping a healthy work-life balance. And the more we talk about it, the harder it all gets to actually implement and do. And it almost feels like it's another chore added to this list of never-ending chores. So in this context, how does one do it, and how does one do it well? Now, I have no intention to set myself as an example here because I am far from perfect. And like everyone else, I'm juggling a lot of balls in the air. I have days when it all gets extremely close to crashing and burning. So, with this full disclosure in mind, all I can do is just share my experience, my wins, my shortcomings. And if that inspires you in any way to maybe take some of the good stuff and leave some of the bad stuff or avoid some of the mistakes, well, more power to us. Okay, so to give you a full picture of how this works, if you're the kind of person that loves to Netflix and chill on a regular basis, maybe this is not for you. I honestly don't remember the last time I just Netflixed. I chill alright from time to time, but binge watching Netflix is really not part of my routine and never was. I personally think Netflix is a huge waste of time unless you walk away having learned something useful and finishing maybe a whole season of, I don't know, Breaking Bad or Stranger Things. Just doesn't add anything useful and valuable to your life. You can try to convince me otherwise. No matter how hard you try, I don't think it's going to work out. Sure. I mean, I will watch a movie from time to time or catch up on an episode of some season. And if it's not sci fi, then maybe it's a documentary or maybe survivor type of a show. Also, while I'm maybe jump roping or folding laundry, those are my favorite activities to match with watching something on Netflix. I love multitasking when it comes to Netflix. So if I can do a chore in the house while watching something, then it's definitely a done deal. Because otherwise, by simply doing the math, there's just not enough hours in a day to fit it all in. I mean, if I just try to just give you a little break of my day, if I try to fit an hour of meditation right after I wake up with 1 hour of getting the kids up and fed and dressed and ready to be out of the door. Okay, say you don't have small kids to fend after, and this is your lucky day because you just gain yourself 1 hour of Netflix. But I am a mom, so I have to get my kids out of the house most days during school days. And if it's summer, like summer break right now, there's always some camp or some activity or some VBS that they would go to during the day. So somebody has to get them out of the house first, obviously, feeding them and taking care of them because they are part of our family and we love them and we want to keep them healthy. I digress. Anyway, if I add to that 2 hours of weightlifting, and again, this is a bit more of my routine in the last year, just because I am planning to compete and that just requires a lot of workout. Then also an hour or two of cardio. I know this sounds crazy, right? But just recently I started cutting, which just means that I need to get to a specific stage weight and a percentile when it comes to body fat, which means I needed to add more cardio to my weightlifting routine, which kind of sucks. That's a different story. Then let's talk about 8 to 10 hours of office or event related work. And this is usually taken, by meetings, walkthroughs, if not on a full on 10-hour event day on site somewhere. Then I've got 1 to 2 hours for prepping, having dinner with the family. And this is something that I try to keep constant. I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not saying that I don't fail at it. I'm not saying that I don't miss dinners. But if it's something that I can keep consistent in our family life, I feel like it's a win. And then I have 2 hours during, weekdays, maybe 4 to 6 hours during weekends when I would spend quality time with my kids and doing diverse activities and obviously the night routine, which takes forever. And then to that, what's left is 5 to 6 hours of sleep in a 24-hour day. And I think the math doesn't even like add up at this point because it already sounds like it's a lot of things. But in general, that's kind of like the overall view of what my daily routine looks like. So, all of that to say, if you're probably just tired from listening, this has really been what my day looks like for the last several years, including during COVID when most people were struggling with being bored out of their head. Well, let me tell you, I don't recall one day during the pandemic when I didn't have a full schedule, to be honest. I've always had a project that I worked on. And sure, I mean, I do try to, I don't know, save a day or two a month when I go hiking or backpacking, which is a good rest day for me. But even the rest days mean moving and doing. And that's just the way I am. I mean, this is who I am. Just sitting, putting my feet up, not my thing. Okay. And that might not be the way you are. I don't suppose you are, but that's okay. I honestly would not know what to do with myself if I had to do a full day of nothing. I mean, do you sleep the whole day? Do you ponder upon the mysteries of the world? Do you write things down for maybe that future book that you're still hoping to finish one day? Or maybe add to do things to your imaginary list in your head? I don't know. My brain doesn't stop from constantly working on something. So imagining like a completely empty day is really impossible for me to grasp, as impossible as that sounds. So just go with me. That's who I am. Okay, so now that I've spent like half of the time rambling, how do you keep a healthy balance or resemblance of a lifestyle during a busy event show day? And I've had weeks upon weeks of work travel this year. And for someone that's heavily training for this demanding competition, that has been one of the hardest challenges to overcome, to be honest. So I had to come up with a strategy, and my strategy has been having good, healthy nutrition options on long days when I loading and when I set up, and those show days when you're just on your feet and you're just inside of a venue or a ballroom the whole time and you don't have time to just split and go and eat something healthy. And as many of you can relate, when in a convention center or maybe some venue or whatever, some event space, when you're in the middle of nowhere, or even when you're in the middle of a large city like San Francisco, you don't really have time to go and have a decent meal in a decent restaurant during the event day. And that is just part of the reality of working events. In most cases, you're required to be there on the show site from early in the morning until very late at night. And especially during the setup, the rehearsal, before the event ever started, as well as during the event days when the event is happening, and after that for the strike and loadout. So, all that to say, my strategy has been on those travel days when I get into whatever new city that I have an event in or I am working in. First thing I do after I check into the hotel, I kid you not, I would run to Trader Joe's. Now, I know that Trader Joe's doesn't exist in every city, but that is my go to store if I can find it. If not, I will try to find another alternative when it comes to a grocery store that has healthier food options. Sometimes even Walmart has to do, because that's the only option that I have. And even there, I make sure that I have a list of the things that I can buy. And it's literally a list that I keep for each one of those stores that I can just go into. And I know exactly what I'm going to get for breakfast, for lunch, and dinner. Things that I have already logged into my nutrition app, and it's easy to make a meal out of, especially when you're on the go. So I do make sure that I have healthy breakfast options and some lunch options, sometimes even dinner, even though sometimes dinner happens to be, outside of the event space. Hopefully, if it doesn't, then I would always have some beef jerky with me. And I'm kidding, but not really. But here's my snack options for the last few days, which is baby spinach for everyone that is been craving baby spinach by itself. It's amazing when that's all the carbs you can have. Just know. Also, my sparkling water. This is my dessert. I know that it sounds sad, but really, this keeps me away from other carb heavy, sugary things that I just don't need in my diet. And then let's not forget my protein shakes. This to go. Fairlight is amazing. You can find it at Costco if you have a Costco in your area. And I would have a few of those on hand. And obviously, my beef jerky, which is a must have. And yeah, because I am actually known for, having bags upon bags of beef jerky with me wherever I go as a backup snacking option. And then the protein powder, which I do add to my coffee, or I have the protein drink that I just showed you when there's no time for having an actual meal. I never go without food options because I know that after a long day, the last thing I want to do is work hard for my food too. So, having that already taken care of and easily accessible will keep me from falling off my plan. Now, of course, this does take discipline and dedication to the goals that you have set for yourself. And I personally don't like to disappoint myself, and I don't like to not keep promises that I've made to myself, or not achieve the goals I made because I am going to just give up because it's too hard or this takes too much work. That is just not something that I am or I want to be. I know this is super challenging for many people because people entertain all kinds of unhealthy relations to food that many times is very much tied into trauma and anxiety and depression and a whole range of other issues, including medical issues. All I can say, I am not a professional. I can give you professional advice. All I can tell you is being prepared and having healthy food options beats having to make choices when you're hungry and tired, which in my case turns into hangry, because most likely your will to stay disciplined is highly impacted by being tired and starving by that time. Also, a total no brainer, but don't go shopping for snacks when you're hungry, because I can guarantee you the choices you make are not the same for when you're under pressure to buy all the junk that you can get your hands on. So maybe get one of those bags of spinach, eat it all up, and then go and buy your snacks. I mean, I know it doesn't sound appealing, but really it does do the trick. Now, working out when on the road has definitely been another challenge that takes a whole lot of dedication and discipline, just the same feeding healthy nutrition into your body tends to be. My event production friend Jason, he's so disciplined and so good at this, and I admire the fact that he would wake up at 3 a.m. to hit the gym for a couple of hours before his 6 a.m. show call time, after having worked until midnight setting up and testing stuff. Now, not everyone is as disciplined as you, Jason, which is admirable again, but if you care about something, you most likely will make time for it. My other event planner friend Kurt would bring his jumping rope on the road with him. And if he doesn't have access to a gym or a hotel gym, or he just can't get out of the venue while he's setting up or he's on some event site in between appointments and shows, he would just pull up his jump rope and just jump. And that is something that I've actually made a habit myself, especially when I'm watching something in the evening. And if I'm not folding clothes, I am jump roping just to make up my steps or do my cardio, or just to keep my body moving. Okay. I also have this set of travel bands that you can find on Amazon. Maybe I will remember to put the link down in the episode notes. I use that in conjunction with a workout routine that my trainer has created for me while I'm traveling, to use in my hotel room if my hotel does not have a gym, and if I have no more bandwidth to maybe go for a run, or maybe it's too late or something like that. You know how those event days can run very long. Or maybe if I am in a nice city with a waterfront, and this is something that I love doing when I'm in San Francisco, I would just go for a run or a nice sunset walk just to get my blood pumping, because in most cases, my minimum 15,000 steps per day would have been doubled by then anyway, but it's more the cardio and the heart rate that I'm going after. So all of that to say is, if you care about your body as much as you care about your work, you will find a way to keep your body and your mind healthy, regardless of the conditions and the circumstances of your particular job. Many days I am stuck behind my screens and my desk for hours on no end, especially during those production days of virtual events, and I barely do a count step of 3,000 steps, if that even happens during that day. And to get to my daily goal, then after a long day of sitting on my butt at my desk, it just means that I need to get out and about for a walk or a run to accomplish that. In most cases, even if I don't feel like doing it at first, once I do it, the endorphins I get from having moved my body is the greatest payout, and honestly, totally worth it. Now, I also have days when I am dead tired, so tired that the only thing I have energy left to do is pull the covers on me and crash in bed. That usually happens to me once a month. I'll be honest, when my body just needs that full 10 hours of sleep to recharge in order to get back to my normal, energizing bunny self. One thing is for certain, nutrition plays a huge role in keeping your body's energy level up and your stamina on a continuous surplus. And so does a good workout. And the more accustomed you are to a regular fitness routine that builds you up, the more your energy tank will be filled up and the less tired and stressed you're going to feel. There is a direct correlation between healthy, wholesome nutrition and your stamina and your energy levels. And I am intentionally not mentioning organic here, whatever. I really don't want to dive into a useless conversation on that topic. You need to know what works for you and your body. And I am not going to give you any directions on that topic. I don't diet and I don't do keto. That's just not part of my nutrition plan. All I do is count my macros, and based on whatever fitness stage I am in, I will adjust my macros accordingly. Like currently, I am in a stage of cutting, and what gets cut usually are the carbs and the fat, with my protein macros being kept pretty high so I don't lose my muscle mass as I'm trying to lose that extra percentage. It's so hard to get to. So getting from 15% body fat to 10% body fat is a whole different challenge versus to just losing weight. That does take a level of awareness about your body and how your body responds to each stage, how much energy you need based on the type of workouts that you're doing. And no, I am not a fitness coach, but I know enough about fitness and about my body to just know what works for me. And that's why I'm talking about this from my experience, and that might or might not be yours. Now, also, let me say, in this whole scenario, I do crave ice cream and I do crave things, but that doesn't mean that I'm just going to go and have a whole bucket of ice cream now just because I did a 7-mile run. And that's something that you need to be aware of your own temptation triggers and adjust your goals accordingly. Yes, like I said, this takes a lot of discipline. Yes, it does take motivation, and it takes a daily awareness of your own goals and the promise that you made to yourself to stick to these goals. But it's so worth it. I am 40 and I have never felt better in my skin, healthier, confident, full of energy, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And yes, I do struggle on a daily basis. I used to struggle on a daily basis with anxiety and depression, and I have tried to fix myself with therapy. And I mean, I'm sure there's a place and a time for that too. But after spending time and money on session after session, that got me nowhere. The only thing that worked for me was getting on a regular daily fitness routine, a regimented fitness routine, which for me meant weightlifting with a side of cardio. And mentally and emotionally, those hours spent in the gym did more than all the hours I have spent in a therapy office and doing EMDR and talking about my feelings and my emotions, which is fine and dandy, but really led me nowhere. And I still felt crappy about myself, and I still had issues respecting my body and giving it the attention and the care that it needs. I still didn't think myself worthy of investing time into changing the things that I hated the most about myself. And many of those things had to do with the way I looked. And, at the end of the day, how much time can I spend complaining and wishing that things were different versus just going into action and doing the things and taking the steps that take you closer to the version of yourself that you want to be. And I am personally a fixer and a doer. And there's something that needed to be fixed and could be fixed. So you better believe that that's exactly what I did. I started working at fixing this. Now, in 2020, I remember I had a shitload of house projects that I loved during the pandemic to just nail them off my list. And one of those included building that beautiful built-in floor-to-ceiling bookcase, wall to wall, that you get to see in every podcast video, aside from this one where I have an actual beautiful view of San Francisco. But that is usually the regular podcast video backdrop. And yes, it's real and it's not fake. It's not that virtual background fakeness thing that I don't get and I can get behind, just in case you were wondering. But then by mid 2020, I got tangled in such a messy situation that left me broken on so many accounts and for so many months to come. And I tried everything, journaling and talking to trusted friends and therapy and EMDR and you name it, and nothing worked. I got sick and tired of being emotionally broken, and I took matters into my own hands. And that became my next most important project. I'm still working on finalizing the work I started in 2020, which included my whole self. And no, I am nowhere close to being done and nowhere close to the version of myself that I would like to be. I've still got issues galore I like to grow away from. And the same way, I see my body changing and transforming into its best version of itself. I think, and I do have faith that I can accomplish that at an emotional and a mental level, because the goal is never to stop growing. And I am willing to put in the work that it takes, because this project that I started, which is myself, will keep me busy for the rest of my life. And I have no doubt about it. Now, that is all for today's rant. I know I went on and on, different directions and different tangents. Thank you for tuning in. I really hope you get something out of this rant. I wish that I could hear from you. What has been your greatest challenge you had to overcome in the recent years, and how did you do it? We need more inspiring stories of grit, resilience, and persistence in doing the right thing for the right reason, with the hope that the outcome is that which brings most joy and fulfillment to our life. Here's to that, and being the best version of ourselves that we can be, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Rant series of Events Demystified podcast. If you enjoyed this series and the other interview-style podcast episodes, please take a moment to review it and rate it. If you'd like to take it one step further, feel free to share it with your network. Connect with Anka on social by tagging @Events Demystified Podcast. And if you'd like to learn more about Tree Fan Event Services and find out if we're a good fit in supporting your event, can we help your event be successful with a 20-minute free consultation? Link in the episode's notes. Thanks for tuning in.